Okay, welcome. We're going to be covering today 3 things you should be doing before he throws his first punch, grab, or kick. Hi, everyone. Dashian Miller here with this week's episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. So hope you're doing well, staying safe, training hard, all that wonderful stuff, right? But before we jump into these things that I want to cover, right, we need to put them into context with some of the other frameworks that I've been giving you along the way, right? So first thing we're going to jump into, I could pick either one of these, right? But I want to take a look at the difference, because what we're going to be talking about today are tactics, right? Because we're not coming into contact with them yet, okay? So I know we've covered these in past episodes, but and there's probably a whole episode about these different things. So I'm not going to go into them too deeply. I just want to make sure that we're really, really clear on the terminology that we're using, okay? So first one, right? We're going to take a look at the three jobs, 3 mindsets, right, that we could be using, right? Because there's a difference between a technician, a tactician, and a strategist, right? Okay. So there are techniques. We all know those, right? Okay. Some of you are going to click off already just because I used the word that you think you already know, right? So there are techniques, right? There are tactics, and there are strategies. Okay. In the ninjas realm, there was somebody that, some buddies, right, that were all about any one of these things, right? The ninja that we normally think of, that most people like aspire to, fantasize about, climbing castle walls and all that kind of stuff, right? That's the technician, right? Technician, right? The James Bond guys. Spell correctly. Technician, okay? Okay. He's the fixer, right? Just like the technician who comes to repair your computer or whatever, okay? Tactics, right? This is the tactician, right? Okay. And strategies, right? This is the strategist. Not difficult words to work with, okay? But each one has a different job. And in the context of our training, these are 3 different mindsets, 3 different ways to apply what we're learning and what we could be doing to protect ourselves in an actual fight scenario, okay? So real clear, right? Again, this is just brief because I've done entire episodes on these things, right? Techniques are things that we do with our bodies to their body, okay? Pretty simple, right? Strikes, joint locks, dislocations, throws, whatever, right? Techniques are things we do with our bodies to their bodies, okay? I'm going to jump over tactics. Well, actually, we'll just do it in this line, right? Tactics are things that we do to make the delivery or the execution of our techniques easier, okay? So tactics, right? The kamae that we choose, the way we align ourselves with them, all that kind of stuff, right? Tactics makes techniques easier. Strategies are the outcomes that we want at the end of the whole encounter and gives context to which tactics and which techniques are going to produce that outcome, okay? Pretty simple, right? All right. So what we're going to be working on today falls squarely in tactics, okay? Of course, it affects this and this, but we're going to be looking at tactics because I'm not going to be talking about anything that has to do with the bodies coming together, okay? We're going to do some things like that on Friday virtual training, our masterclass that we do here at the Academy. So if you want to get on that, you can just go to that little link there. It's the bottom of the page, right down there, right? But anyway, we're going to put it all in context, right? And it's not going to be about the outcome. At the moment, the strategy that we have is freaking win and go home and don't get left in pieces, right? That's the strategy, right? Okay, that should be the strategy of every student leading all the way up to Nidan in our curriculum. If you're in the general Bujinkan curriculum, 8th or 9th dan, okay? So context, right? Today, we're going to be talking about tactics, okay? Because it's all about, everything that I'm going to be talking about is about stacking the odds in your favor and maximizing the results that you're getting or maximizing the effectiveness of your techniques, okay? Pick one, okay? So that's one of them. The other one is this system that we call the 5 Ds. 5 Ds of effective self-defense, okay? 5 Ds. Okay? Hasn't always been called the 5 Ds. We just kind of wrapped it up that way so that it'd be easy for you to have, okay? So 5 Ds. The 5 Ds are, oh, I can't hear you anyway. Okay. So discern. Okay. Defend. No, that's not whipping his ass. Discern, defend, disrupt. If this is new for you getting, go and find the previous episode that's all about these things. I think the last one that we did actually was way back near the beginning, right? It was on applying the 5 Ds to a grabbing attack, right? I have another one coming up that's going to be applying this to a punching attack. And then we're going to have to look at it again from weapon attacks, from grab and strike attack, or when the fight scenario changes, right, and goes back and forth between striking, kicking, grabbing, maybe a gun or a knife comes into play, you know, real, right? Okay, so discern, defend, disrupt, deliver, right? Not the pork, not the chicken, deliver, right? And then discern. Okay, nope, I didn't stutter. Okay, so the trick is, what are we doing in each one of these things, right? So discerning is observing, paying attention, assessing the situation, all these kind of things that precede the attack, right? The actual physical attack, right? Want to collect for a ninja, right? We're collecting as much information as possible so that we can use that against them, okay? Defend, what I'm doing is I'm neutralizing the force of their attack. Okay, so whatever they're throwing at me, right, I'm making it like worthless, right? If they tried to shove me, right, I'm maintaining my balance so that it didn't do anything, right? They shoved, right? They did what they wanted to do, but they didn't get what they wanted to get. Okay, they tried to punch me, I evade, right? Whatever. Okay, maybe I throw a counter strike or whatever, but counter strikes tend to be down here at disrupt. Disrupt is breaking their balance, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, right? Okay, I want to throw them off, and as many of them I can stack at the same time. In the Scrolls of the Tagagi Yoshiryu, the instruction is to break 3 lines of balance minimum at the same time. Okay, cool stuff, right? And then deliver. This is where I'm taking the whoop ass to them, right? Taking them down, knocking them back, whatever it is, right? Making it impossible for them to get back at me. And discern is a review stage where I'm paying attention at the end, right? Which is something a lot of people don't do, right? They throw their partner, and they don't practice it either. They knock their partner back in training, they throw them, put them in joint lock or whatever, and then they mentally disengage, right? There's a whole episode where I talk about that and how to fix that. But what we want to do is hold that. My teachers always had us hold it for at least 3 seconds as we're backing out to watch what they're doing, right? Yeah, but what if he's just picking himself up off the ground? It doesn't matter. What I'm training myself to do is watch what they're doing, because I need to know, is he down and out for the count? Is he getting up and running away and running to the truck for a freaking gun or a club or whatever, and he's going to come back? Or is he on the cell phone calling for his big brother and his 4 friends? Or whatever. Is he getting back up and he's already coming back in? Or I took him down and he's already latching onto my legs, right? I know that attack's not in the scrolls. If you've ever been in a real situation, you would know that's a real possibility, okay? So based on what he's doing here, this could be the end, or this D could become this D in the next foray, in the next cycle, okay, in the next round of things, so to speak, okay? So the stuff we're going to be looking at today, right, falls squarely in here, okay, but affect this and this, okay? So this is your primary, right, but these, right, it's going to affect how and what we're going to do to neutralize the force of his attack, make it difficult for him to get at us. If possible, have him already off balance, right, before he throws that first punch, grab, kick, knife attack, whatever it is, okay? So pretty cool. Now we're all caught up, right? Awesome. This may not be a very, very long lesson today, but that's okay. You guys have, I don't know, Netflix to binge or whatever you're going to be doing with the rest of your day, cat videos to watch, okay? The next self-defense, ninja videos, whatever, right? Some of you might have to be getting off your ass and actually like going and training, okay? But who knows, right? Anyway, so let's look at these 3 things, all right? So there are many ways to approach this idea of what you're doing before, okay? Obviously, the more that you can do, the better off you're going to be, right? But we're going to focus on 3, and so these 3 things, really, really simple, right? Okay. So first thing, and this all has to do with assessment, right? Assessment. What that means is we're checking things out and seeing what's there. Okay. So the first one is checking out, right? I don't mean like checking out, like, okay, not that kind of checking out, right? Checking out, assessment's a big word. I can't always trust that everybody knows these things, right? So checking out your environment. Okay. I know where I am. Been here before. Yeah. Okay. I don't know that you just didn't stop staring at your phone because you heard a commotion and now, shit, you're like 3/4 of a way down a long corridor and you thought you just walked in the door like 4 steps ago. Okay. So, but it's not just knowing. This is not about knowing where you are, right? It's looking for usable aids on hand. Let me put some of these things in here, right? So you're going to look for usable aids. Okay. Okay. So what's laying around? What might be able to pick up? Okay. Hatsumi Sensei has always taught that, there's no such thing as a fair fight, but because this is about survival, because he's going to be unpredictable, because, all these things, right? Because this is it's not a ring, right? This is about going home. We have to be able to use weapons, okay? And as long as the sooner we can get away from classifying weapons as the official ones for our art, right? Like longstaff and sword and knife and hanbo and whatever, right? And we can start thinking in terms of rock, brick, broom, whatever, right? Chair, okay? Whatever, right? We're going to be much better off, okay? Because it doesn't have to look pretty. You just have to win, okay? Actually, several of the teachers in Japan, the Japanese master teachers, 2 of them actually are now soke, but they've always said it's not about winning or losing, right? Don't think that way, right? You don't have to win. Just don't lose, okay? So usable aids, right? What's laying around that I can maximize my effectiveness with, right? Because it's not going to be this way anymore, right? Okay, grab a broom or whatever, and now I go, oh, look at that! You brought hands and feet to a broom fight or a stick fight or whatever, right? Okay, so usable aids. What do I have, including what's in my hand? Okay, I don't care what my cell phone cost. Makes a great shuriken, makes a great teppon, right? One of these just clunky kind of things that you can hit somebody with or whatever. And I have insurance on it. So I'll never be more than a day or so without my phone. And I'm not that addicted that I can't live without it. Okay. So usable aids, right? I'm looking for those. I'm also looking, right, for hazards, right? What I don't want to be paying, what I don't want to happen is I get so tunnel visioned, right, that I don't see the shrub or the bush or the curb or the kid's toy or whatever, right? And I end up on my back or on my ass, and next thing you know, this guy's finishing me off, okay? So what kind of hazards do we have, right? Now, hazards can be used for me, right? But they could also be, they could be dangerous to me, but I can also use them as impediments, right? Because there might be a tree there, might be a post or whatever that I can get behind, right? I just stepped off screen there, right? That I might be able to get behind, and it's going to be harder for him to get at me, right? So I can keep this thing between he and I. If I'm in a hospital setting, like the nurses and doctors that I help with when it comes to workplace violence, right? I might grab one of those IV poles, right? And keep it between he and I, right? So that kind of thing, or a med card or something like that, right? Okay. So I'm looking for hazards. I'm looking for possible allies. Okay. And when I start putting whoop ass on them, because that's what we all fantasize about, right? That these people don't come out of the woodwork, and next thing I know, it's a multiple attacker scenario, right? So I want to watch for things like that. I also want to watch for possible allies for me as well, right? So, people that can help, right? Because if there are people around, what's the chance that 9 out of 10 of them have their cell phone in their hand, right? So before they get a chance to whip it up and pop the camera on and not be a help at all because they're trying to be the top dog on YouTube or Instagram or whatever the hell they're on, right? You can be yelling at them, call 911, call the cops, whatever, right? This guy's trying to hurt me. Okay. So now that does two things. Okay. Now we're going into the realm of psychological warfare because I'm commanding somebody to do something, and at least one of them, personality type, is going to follow that instruction. Right. And now he knows that it's not just him and me, that I called the cavalry. Okay. I called the cavalry. Right. So I want to check my environment. What can I use? What might be in the way for him or me? Right. And who else can I use? Who else can I call to my aid? Or who might be hanging out that, they weren't paying attention because they were freaking, nostrils deep in their cell phone. And next thing you know, they hear a commotion and I'm halfway through a technique winning, and all they see is me kicking their friend's butt and they come running. Okay. That good Samaritan syndrome that can backfire on you. Okay. That kind of thing. Right. Second thing we want to take a look at, right, is controlling the distance. Most of you have been, if you've been training for any length of time, right? Control the distance. You know about this, right? Okay. Or people have just talked about it, but what does that mean? What is effective distance for that particular attacker type, right? Because controlling the distance and access, we'll add that, right? And access, right? This requires more than just taking up a memorized amount of distance, okay? Because every fight style, every attacker logic, every technique has a particular range of effectiveness. There's a little bit of leeway, right? But there's too close. This is like the three bears, right? There's too close, there's too far, and there's just right, okay? He's trying to get into that just right phase. You need to know what that is, okay? So this goes back to our 8 phases of effective self-defense. I'm not writing that framework out, but in the general awareness stage that everybody takes for granted, this is all the research you're doing, okay? Learning about other fight styles, other attacker logic and whatnot, and other people's techniques, so that you're not caught off guard because all you ever train against is the shit in your in your martial art, okay? All right, so controlling distance and access, knowing that, excuse me, allergies. Knowing that every technique, right? Every style and whatnot, height, length of person, that kind of thing, right? They have a particular reach that's optimal, right? They have like certain, like these guys have preferences and things like that, right? So there's certain targets, right, that they tend to go after, okay? A shoot fighter will come in for your waist or your thighs, right, to take you down to the ground, okay? A Taekwondo guy is going to go midsection. He might try to do a leg sweep, but midsection or head, right, depending on the posture you're in, that kind of thing, right? Okay? So what I want to be doing with controlling the distance is controlling their access by reach. First and foremost, stay out of jab range, okay? If you're in jab range, you're in a world of hurt, okay? Because you're going to be bobbing and weaving too much and worrying about those, and you're never going to see the thing that gets you. Right? You want to control his access to your targets. That's what our kamae do, right? They control access to targets, right? They don't just set things up so I can get to him easier and control things when they come in. They also control access, right? There's certain windows in each kamae, right? So there's a certain opening, right? For here, that changes, right? It's now over here, right? 4 equilateral triangles, right? It controls what he sees, perceptions, all that kind of stuff, right? So it controls his access to your targets, right? And how easy it is for you to intercept him on the way in, okay? So, and then the third thing, these are all external, right? Okay? This is the environment. This is him related to you and your body parts and things like that, right? And then the third thing we're going to be checking, assessing, right, is we're going to check our emotions. Now, I don't give a flying rat's any body part, whether or not you buy into the Godai system that Stephen Hayes has been teaching for a long time or whatever, whether it's real, whether it's not real, emotions are real, okay? So when something starts to happen near us, especially danger, right, we start to have an emotive response, not happy, sad, angry, whatever. I mean attraction, repulsion, or either it's not really affecting me, I see it, but I'm not bothered by it, or because I see it, but it's not registering. Okay, that's in there. Okay, so what's important here is, and this is a big part of our training. What's important here is that the emotive state that you're in causes muscles to fire. Your adrenals, right? The emotions. I don't care if it's happy or angry or whatever, right? It's an adrenal response, right? So brain stuff aside, okay? But it's affecting that too. Brain stuff aside, what I want you to think about is when you're in a certain emotive state. Let's say I'm in what we would typically call a water state, right? Or a defensive state, right? You've got this anxiety or fear or feelings of overwhelm, whatever going on. And what that does is it causes your abdominal wall to contract, trying to pull your rib cage down and your pelvis up to protect the organs, right? Because you feel like you're in over your head, and what your body autonomically does, right, is start to protect the internal organs, okay? If I'm pissed off, right, if I feel the need to get in there first, what ends up happening is things expand, right? The chest wall expands, things tend to push out. I come up a little bit more, and that gives me the ability to move much more quickly, right? But what's happening with these muscle contractions is they're affecting the spine and the vertebrae, right? If you go down the vertebrae, right, we have the cervical, we have the thoracic, we have the lumbar, we have, that kind of stuff, right? We have these different areas in the spine. And so the vertebrae have a little bit of movement between the two, right? Because there's these little discs, right, that create some buffer and all that. But at certain stages, right, you might know them as chakra, right? Or chakra, right? But either way, at certain stages, there's points that have way more flexion, okay? So that allows for, right, the movement of the spine, but not the whole thing, right? We're not a snake. We don't move that way, right? There are these things. So what happens under these emotive states is the body fires certain muscles that either open up or lock down these main break points. And when that happens, depending on the combination of how those things are locked, will determine how well your body moves in any given direction. Okay? So if, I'm kind of closed in this way, right? And I'm kind of hiding this way, right? It's going to be very difficult. Now, people can cheat this, right? Because you can kind of fold your body, but not lock anything, right? So you can walk forward, you can walk back, kind of look like a crotchety old man or woman or whatever, right? But if you're authentically this way, where you're pulling your belly button back to your spine, right? And these things lock, becomes very difficult to take a step forward. Your thighs start to lock in place, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's very difficult. What's easy is side to side movement from there, okay? This kind of movement. Okay? People say that they're moving back away from an attacker, but your body, based on its alignment with itself, is actually moving side to side, okay? If it's changed and you're this way, you can move easier in more directions, right? If your energy's up, right, this kind of thing, right, it's going to be more difficult to move in directions, right? But what's easier is to turn around your spinal column, okay? Because you don't need your legs as much. Your torso can control that, right? So why this is important is if your training involves matching certain movements and understanding these things to the emotive state by checking your emotions, you're more likely to stay away from mentally preferred, right? These are my favorite techniques. Well, nobody gives a shit, right? I mean, except for you, right? Because what matters is your ability to move freely. Hatsumi Sensei has taught this for decades, right? Freedom of movement, okay? He was a doctor. So when he talks about the alignment of the hips, knees, and ankles and how they keep us standing, or if you, in the process of moving, misalign those, you're either going to have a problem moving your legs or you're going to fall down. Reverse engineer that. If I can control the alignment of his hips, knees, and ankles, I can control his ability to move his legs or cause him to fall down, right? Because what keeps us standing is that alignment, right? The alignment of ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over feet, okay? All this stuff, right? So freedom of movement requires that we understand a little bit more of these things. But what I'm going to right here, because you may not know what this guy's all about, you may not have the time to check your environment, but you will always know what state you're in. Unless you're in the state of denial, in which case you won't know because you'll be trying to override it, and then you're going to try to make sense out of things and win, even though you're trying to do things contrary to what your body is naturally set up for at the moment. Okay? Interesting stuff, but it's not a psychological exercise. It's the way we work. Okay? If you've ever seen somebody who's trying to make a point or pissed off or like so in tune with what somebody else is saying, or, you know, they're highly attracted or whatever, right? They tend to lean in, right? The guy that's trying to be the man, right? Chest puffs up, chest sticks out, right? That way they can move, right? The body has some more movement to it, all that kind of stuff. Athletes and whatnot, energy's way up here, this kind of stuff, because they want to be able to move in any direction, right? The person that's like, oh, sick to their stomach, they're just anxiety ridden and all that kind of stuff, right? Movement's not that easy, right? Because most people don't think about moving this way, right? And it looks pretty funny that, you know, in the middle of my anxiety-ridden state, I need to go get a drink or I need to go to the bathroom. So I'm just gonna. People don't think about that because it looks odd. But the reality, from a physiological, anatomical state, is when those muscles fire based on that adrenal kick, it locks up and frees up your spine in certain directions. And your legs will only be able to move in certain directions based on that emotive state. Okay? I know I have weird hobbies, the shit that I study. Anyway, right? So again, the three things, right? And again, this is all tactics, right? The reason we're checking the environment and looking for these things, the reason why we're choosing kami the way we do, right? Or taking up a certain distance, right? Close, far, mid, whatever, right? Is because of his fight logic. It's because, you know, I want to control his ability to reach and get at me, right? I want to control his access to my targets, those kind of things, right? And I want to check my emotions because I want my body to be able to move easily, right? So I have to figure out, hopefully I know by then, right? Because my training has helped me with that I feel this way, so therefore, right? It's going to, I'm already feeling this way, right? People that want to get in there, right? Now we go to teach them like to step back and be defensive and get 60, 70% of their weight on their back leg. This is what tends to happen, right? From right here, they go, because they want to go that way. Okay. So it doesn't matter that we're working on a technique this way, right? What they're going to have to do is put themselves into context and get out of that uber excited or fearful or anxious kind of state where they want to get things handled right away, right? We're working on a particular strategy. And that's what people need to think about, right? Learn the techniques, right? Let's go back to that original core thing, right? So learn the techniques, the what, right? The what, right? So you can go beyond the techniques to understand tactically, right? What's being taught in that technique, okay? Right? That's the how. Okay. And how or what the end result of that technique produces. Does he end up laying on his back? Does he end up on his side where you have access to his kidneys and his spine? Does he end up face down on the ground? Does he, whatever, right? Okay. The end result, right? What's the strategy, the end result that technique is leading to, right? That's the why. Okay. Why are we doing these things in this order, this way, right? Based on this distance, this timing, that kind of thing, right? In the beginning, people are learning techniques, right? It's just to kick ass, right? It's just to know stuff, right? But if we want to go beyond that, if you're really aiming for mastery, if you want to be, worth this, some people just want to get the high rank, right? Because that gives them bragging rights. But if you want to own it, right? You want to be worth that, what that thing implies, then you need to go past the step-by-step dance routine, right? To figure out tactically what. But again, what I'm covering here is all about the techniques, right? The what are we doing? The how, right? The timing, the distance, the angling, all that kind of stuff, the rhythm that's going on, right? How we're disrupting his, and why, where does it lead, right? But this is still the fight. This is still that engagement, right? It's the middle of the engagement, right? What I want to do, what I'm trying to point to you today, or try to get you to understand, is that unless this guy jumps out from an open doorway or a paneled van with two of his friends or whatever, and they're just on you, right? And you're like knee deep in phase 6, and all you're trying to do is freaking break that grip and haul ass or get to your weapon or whatever it is, right? If he's moving in, right? If he's yelled at you and he's coming, or right, you see it start to happen, right? There is time between when you notice that and when he throws that first thing. And when you get this stuff down to where it becomes natural, you just do it, right? That discern phase, this takes literally maybe half a second, 3 seconds, maybe, right? But what you're doing is you're utilizing that time, right? To not shit yourself, to prep and set things up, right? Like the tactician, like the strategist, right? You're setting things up so when he gets there, his job is really, really difficult. Okay. But if I just panic and I just wait for it to come, I wait for the attack, I'm looking for anything, right? I'm worried that, whatever, right? Well, shit, right? As one of my teachers used to say, we just became an accomplice to our own ass kicking, right? The problem becomes exponentially bigger because of our inaction, okay? So if all we're focusing on is techniques, that's all you got, okay? But if we can focus on tactically, right, understanding what we might have, and then picking something and then utilizing it. Like I said, getting that tree between you and him, right? Throwing that chair at, whatever it is, right? Creating a problem for him that maybe it just makes him go away. That'd be awesome, right? Unless you're, and here's the thing, right? If it's an opportunistic attacker, right, and you just look good for the moment, you can make that person go away, and generally speaking, it's all good. But if you're targeted, you have a whole different problem, because you can make a person go away, but now you have a bigger problem, because now you've been looking over your shoulder a lot for a long time, or at least until they catch you while you're sleeping or whatever it is, right? Okay. So all of these things have different conditions. If we just stop at techniques, you have such a tiny piece of the equation. It's an important piece, but it's a tiny piece, okay? This assessment stuff, tactically understanding how to increase your advantage, decrease his, right? Set things up so that the application of your techniques is just easier, right? But the ultimate strategy, right? Well, what do you want the end, the outcome to be? Well, I just want him to run off. Okay, what about tomorrow? Right? I want him to run off and be so fucking terrified he doesn't come back. Or I want him to not be able to make that phone call he threatened me with, or whatever. So anyway, very, very different. But again, this is the realm of that tactician. Tactics and strategies typically come before the technique is ever needed, because the tactics and strategies, well, actually, the strategy determines the techniques. The tactics help with the application of the techniques. And that's the order of things. All right. Anyway, that's what I got. Sorry, this one's a shorter one, but you can get back to your lives. And if you want to do more of this, or you want to see more of this or whatever, especially in physical context, we'll be doing this Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern here at the dojo. But there's a virtual option. You can just go to this URL right here. For those who know, like for the last 2 weeks, there was a glitch between our host and security company, and it took us that long to get everything back online. We just had to do some workarounds, but now we're back on. This works just fine. You can go there, you can sign up, even if you can't make it, right? Class is $4.99, right? It's the cheapest you're ever going to work with me. But anyway, you can go there, sign up for it, right? And then even if you can't make it, work schedule changes, whatever, right? We'll give you access to the video afterwards, and you'll be all set. Okay. So, but what we're going to be paying attention to during this upcoming class is not starting the way most people start, right? He's right there, right? What we're going to do is we're going to have some space. And then we're going to have attacker, the uke, coming in different ways, right? First thing we're going to do is play around with the diminishing distance and how we can use that time, how we can increase that time, right? And we're also going to take a look at how, so everybody's going to learn how certain types of fighters and certain styles might move and how they might be coming in to do things. So we can select kamae the right way. We can select angling and distancing and alignment and things like that in a way that chokes up the advantage that they've learned that their stuff has, right? And flip it on them so that they have a very difficult time doing this thing that they're best at. And they're going to have to make up a different solution that they're not so great at on the fly in the moment, because we're just not going to let them do their thing. Okay. So cool stuff. Anyway, that's all I have. Train hard, be well, have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.